right, welcome. Good late evening, and let's get into YBIT and its underlying BITO. So we had a positive day today. We were up 1.33 in the underlying BITO, and we had a 0.71%. I probably should have made this 1992 because it closed at 199167, but I just put in 1991. So we tracked it fairly close. Okay, so there were 3 trades. So one of the things that happened where they wanted to go spend money was they had an 80% flow into the fund in new shares. They went from 125,000 shares to 225,000, right? So 100 over 125 is 4/5 or 80%. So you get those kind of flows sometimes early on in small new funds, but that's awesome. I mean, just really glad people are flowing in. So whenever a lot of cash comes in relative to the fund, so they had a change in overall assets of 2.165 million, right? So then they put on a synthetic and usually the same number of contracts in a what we call a naked call. Basically, they sell a call without owning the underlying. But you'll see Yieldmax refer to that as a covered call. It's a covered call in the sense that you have this bullish bet in the synthetic, buy a call, sell a put. So both those make money when the stock goes up or doesn't go down. And the quote covered call that's actually a naked call, meaning they don't own the underlying asset that they're writing the call against, makes money when the stock doesn't exceed that call value. So anyway, what they did was they did 720 buy calls on the synthetic, the May 17th, okay, $29 BITO. And they sold short the puts on the April. Boy, I've got April hung up. I guess we're in April. So the May 17th, 29 as well. So they netted money because the stock is trading below 29, so they're able to get more for the put than they can for the call. So that puts money in the fund. All right, so let's look at that on the sheet. So that looks like 720 calls were written. This is the naked call, or what we call the weekly call, and not the synthetic. I'll flip over to the synthetic in a minute. So 720 contracts, each contract has 100 shares, and they went out to the 5/3 week, right? So on this expiration, let's make this guy yellow, right? We've got one that expires tomorrow, one more trading day, but this one is out a week so that they could get 49 cents, right? This guy here at 45.5 cents, they could close it today for 2.5 cents at the close. So they'll probably close that tomorrow, assuming we don't get over 29, right? We don't want to get over 29 so that we can collect all of that cash that we wrote that for, which is 39,000. So we wrote this guy for 35,000, right? So that netted us some more cash flow, right? So we're up to 74,000 in what we call our short call income, naked calls. That's payable money, right, in the monthly. All right, let's jump over to the synthetic and see what that did. So here's our synthetic. We always buy a call, which costs us money, and sell a put, which we receive money. So depending on where you are in the scheme down here, if you're below, you're usually going to make more money on selling the put. But the idea is you will lose that money, right? So we're behind 245,000, but that's a paper loss. That doesn't count as a booked loss, right? This counts as a booked gain, and this is a paper loss because we have till 5/17 to settle, right? So this TBD means to be determined. And our total now is 1,580. So we're sort of in the hole, but once we get to 29, this 245 is zero at expiration. All we need to do is be at $29 and we'll collect this full 388. Now, this at 29, this call would be worth zero, but you can see that we would make money on this synthetic. All right, let's jump. I wanted to show you an example, so I won't spend all the time like I did on the futures. One thing that I didn't tell you, when you buy a futures contract, what we call a full-size contract, each futures contract controls 5 BTC coins. They have a mini contract, and individuals that don't have the capital for the margin requirement and all that, it's 1/10 the size. So you would control half a Bitcoin, right? So that's what the futures game is all made of. The only thing that they did that's substantial, now unlike Yieldmax where they tell me the prices that they on intraday that they move so I can track very closely when the fund is making money. Since they're using BITO, I get to see all of Yieldmax's moves whenever they put trades on. But this is ProShares, and all they do is tell you the current contract count, right? And I compare it to yesterday, and I see they closed out, which they would have had to do by tomorrow, was the last trading day on the April contract. So this old number was 300 less, right? It was 3476, and this number was like 2614. So they just rolled it into these, but I can't tell how much they're making, good or bad, right? It kind of makes sense that when BTC is going up, they're making money on these futures contracts, right? But depending on how they place these calls and do things, and whether they write calls on top of the futures contracts, which they might be doing and they're not showing, I can't perfectly tell, but I just thought I'd share that with you. I don't expect this to change radically now that they're fully into the May and June contract. Okay, so let's take a look. We looked at the synthetic, we talked about that. So they're 2.69 BL. Oh, let's look on our weekly. So I showed you what they did, but this summarizes. What I don't like about this 720, they went out till 5/3. That's fine, no issues, right? There was only one trading day. But they wrote it so tight, they wrote it at 28.50, right? So we got no room to run. This original 860 that expires tomorrow, there's very little likelihood that BITO is going to run past 30. It would have to be some kind of news or something to drive that, right? So we're going to collect that money. But look how tight this one is, 28.50. I mean, that's less than 1% increase, and we start eating into that money. And look, that's to 5/3. So that says to me that the Yieldmax fund managers don't think BTC is going to move much. Well, it probably won't move a lot on Friday, but coming up on 5/3, I would suspect that they may be underwater on this one. They're going to close out this one, and then they're going to rewrite this one. So hopefully they go out to 29 or 30 and rewrite it. Now what's happening? This volatility is going down. Implied volatility is what drives the premium on the options. So a lot of your favorite big stocks are going to have 15, 20, 30% implied volatility. So 60 is high, but look where it's been. It's been as low as 21 and as high as 108. We were 66 yesterday. So what that means is the stock is staying within a trading range, right? Look at this bull flag. Here, within 1 month, you were at 20 and then you were at 30 from the beginning to the end of the month, well, that's going to translate into a high IV, and you're going to get more premium, or these monthly payouts can be bigger. And now we're just trending in this channel. I update this like every other day. So knowing that we closed at 28.22, it's not hard to see that we're right here. And we didn't do anything in the volume. I think it was 9 million, right? We need to get up here around 20 million to consider it a breakout on volume. And you want the breakout to go through the resistance line, not go through the lower resistance, right? So all this stuff is still valid. I just tend to update this. If we stay right in the middle, I'm not going to update it until we move up closer to the resistance line or down closer to the support line. Okay, let's take a look in our holdings. So here's the 245 I was referring to. So I have a chart that I do on Coney and Misty. For those of you that follow my, I put a little chart down here, a graph. So we're losing money on our synthetic, right? But because we added more on the synthetic, we also can count that as income. So this holdings is, I do something where I throw all the cash funds over here. This is where all of their money, and remember the strategy of Yieldmax is to have a bunch of cash. You're getting paid, or they're collecting 5% plus on all this cash. They need the cash as collateral so that they can go out and put on these synthetic positions and write these naked calls. So there's nothing wrong with having your cash make money for you. Now, here's your 80%, right? Yesterday, this number was 125. So we went up 100,000, and that's why I divide today's total by yesterday's total, and that gives me the 80%. So you won't see 80% very often, especially in the more mature funds. So awesome. I'm glad it's popular. It's going to probably end up paying more than BITO will. Well, BITO's going to pay every month because they're already there. This one likely is going to skip, right? I don't see us declaring on May 3rd. You never know, but I would say it's like a 1% chance. They'll wait till June 3rd declaration. So here's our new 28.5, right? And they actually wrote that, I think, at 45. And so BITO moved up in the day, so they're behind the 8 ball on that one a little bit. But here I mentioned on this 30, there's one trading day left, and they could buy it back for 2.5 cents, but they'll probably buy it back later on Friday for a penny. So we've already gotten that money, right? And this one we have time. If anything, I think we run by this 28.5. All right, let's take a look at the payment tab. So good news, bad news. When you add more shares, you have more people collecting it, right? So with this even being lower yesterday, I think we were up around 50 or 60 cents. Well, now we have 225 instead of 125, right? So our total net income, even though it's negative, that's positive income, right? Debits and credits. So 264 is the total amount of income. The short call is how Yieldmax looks first to consider a distribution. Now again, we're not distributing, at least I think it's a long shot that they would distribute any money, right? But right now we're setting on 33 cents a share if this was a normal month that they could distribute. And they might go over here and do a 50-cent distribution by borrowing some, because this is real synthetic revenue too, right? The 190, that's where the put is higher, that's giving us more money. But we've got that liability of 245,000, but that's on the books. So if this was the end of the month and these were the numbers, I'd say we'd get a 60-cent payout. So I think these are going to be much bigger numbers by June 3rd at declaration when we go to pay in June. So a lot of talk around that. I just wanted to educate you guys that are newer to Yieldmax and you're not always sure how they pay out. I think a majority of you probably own some other Yieldmax funds, so you're familiar a little bit with this payout and how do they determine it. So, okay, so now you know in YBIT where we stand. So I'm going to leave this separate for a while. If anybody really wants to see it with Coney and Misty, I couldn't see why you can't just watch a separate video. It allows me to break my work into two pieces. Okay, so that's it for tonight. I'll say good night. And again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for fun and education. All right, see ya. Bye.